There's a lot going on in baseball, and we don't even know if they're going to go on strike. Some people believe that this could go all the way on to the beginning of the season, and there might be a shortened season again. And we've seen this in 1994. Baseball practically missed our whole season, 50 games that they played.
Yep.
With everything that's happened with COVID, you don't want to miss any of the 162 games this year. You want the Players Union and League to figure things out so they can have a full, great season. But a lot of players that are going to be available this offseason, they want to get their contracts signed before this strike, because if there isn't a season and they're not under contract, they're not going to get paid for the time that they're going to be out. So guys like Justin Verlander, who is throwing bullpen sessions, he wants to get signed. He wants to make sure that he's under contract before this strike starts, because the winter meetings are going on. So the owners and the league and the players are trying to negotiate a deal right now, and it doesn't look like it's going to be finished before the season starts. So, Speedy, you're a big baseball fan. What are your thoughts with the strike, and are we going to miss time for the MLB season?
I think we will. I don't know if we'll miss as much as 1994, but I think they're definitely going to miss time. I think there's a lot of different rules being divided upon, and I think the other big issue is free agency. When it comes to the discrepancy in guys getting contracts now, they're paying a lot of the young guys, which rightfully so. There's a lot of the younger guys entering free agency earlier. We've seen it with Tatis, we've seen it with Machado, Harper, guys like that have gotten huge contracts. As a result, the veteran players, especially hitters, especially corner outfielders, first basemen, positions that aren't as big a priority as something like third base, shortstop, center field, aren't getting paid the big bucks. And I think that's the divisiveness that you're seeing from teams. And also, in general, you just have a big payroll discrepancy with the Dodgers and the Red Sox and the Yankees, the Mets having all this money, and the bottom feeders are just so low that it's hard for them to get anywhere competitive balance, and the league office wants that kind of competitive balance. So the players now, because they're trying to overload and sign with all these new teams, these flashy teams, it's going to be a big issue for them. They have a strong players association, so I feel like they will end up holding out as a result. I think you're going to see 120-game season, I think. The playing time also makes a difference for them, too. They get worn out throughout the season.
I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And talking about a team that is very interesting right now is the New York Mets.
They're always interesting, just usually for the wrong reasons.
I don't know what's going on with this team. I don't know why they don't have a GM yet in place. I don't understand why they don't have a president in place. Now, there is a lot of people that they've reached out to, and none of these executives want this job. Now, I don't know what it is. Maybe it is Steve Cohen. I don't think it is. And if it is, why would you want to run an organization with a guy that obviously has deep pockets? Look what he did with Lindor. He outbid himself for Francisco Lindor. Nobody was going to give Lindor $300 million, but he gave him $340 because he can. With this whole Javier Baez thing, what is going on with the New York Mets? We never even know what's going on with Jacob deGrom half the time because he's hurt. He's not. Nothing that comes out from the New York Mets organization that makes any sense. In the stories that you read over here in New York is, they don't want to come to New York. They don't want the pressure of the press, and they don't want the pressure of the fans. That's a bunch of you-know-what. You would want to come over here and slay the dragon. The Mets haven't won a World Series since 1986. So if you can come into New York, you build this team, Theo Epstein being one of them. And Theo Epstein did interview for the job, but for some reason, Steve Cohen didn't want to give him the money that he wanted. Now, if you can get Theo Epstein to help you rebuild this team, which he did for the Red Sox, he did it for the Cubs that didn't win a championship for over 100 years, and the Red Sox that didn't win for 70 years. The Bambino curse. You haven't won a World Series in almost 30 years. You have a chance to bring in Theo Epstein, and you don't want to pay him? Now, I don't know the truth behind it, but he did interview for the job. So he did go in, he did talk to Steve Cohen, and he did go and talk to Sandy Alderson. The fact that they let him leave that office has you worried. Maybe he wants to be the VP, or maybe he wants to be the commissioner eventually. The fact is, the Mets don't have a GM. They don't have a president. You want Sandy Alderson, a guy that really doesn't want the position, wants to retire, but Steve Cohen brought him in because he trusts him. He wants to move on in his life. You're going to trust Sandy Alderson's going to make the right decisions this offseason to make this team a playoff team, something that they should have been this year? You got so many question marks. What are you going to do with some of this pitching staff? Marcus Stroman. What are you going to do with Noah Syndergaard?
Hopefully he takes the qualifying offer. Otherwise, don't touch him.
Conforto.
Goodbye.
Javier Baez. Are you going to re-sign him?
Dominic
Let
Smith,
him go?
J.D. Davis. Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
What are you going to do? Your bullpen, you spent $200 million last year on?
Still overpaying for Melia, too.
You brought in May. What did that do for you last year? Especially in the second half of the season. Fell apart.
Weird, because the Mets, it looked like on paper, were supposed to be the versatile bullpen, and it finally looked like they were being modern. And both Trevor May and Seth Lugo had his worst year of his career, and May had his worst year as a reliever. And it's going to be very hard without a GM. And between Sandy Alderson's Moneyball values and Steve Cohen's wanting to spend, I think they've clashed before. They got Baez, which was great, but one trade deadline piece, a couple off season, that was really it when the Mets were supposed to be big spenders. And accumulating depth, I thought they had it, but not the case.
You don't know if the Mets are in a position, being that that there could be a strike season, what this identity is going to be this year. You have to re-sign Javier Baez because you traded away a top prospect. You have one of the best infielders in all of baseball. I wouldn't pay him more than $160 million.
I think he's going to have to get more than 160. I feel like the market's going to give him more because he's still very young.
You're going to tell me that you're going to give Javier Baez and Lindor $500 million in the next 10 years? That's ridiculous.
That's the price you're going to have to pay for being a big market team. But also, you have to realize, you can't just be a big market team. You have to make the good moves with it. And that's why I think they're having trouble with this GM search as a whole, too, or president of baseball operations. There's just so many clashing personalities. Sandy has his own ego, too. His values are trying to be personified.
Hire me. I'm not a Met fan, but I'll go in there and I'll do a good job. And if you give me the money and you give me a salary, I'll bring in a guy that's a mathematical genius. I know exactly what the Mets need to make this team a playoff contender, a championship contending team. Let me run the team for 2 or 3 years. I guarantee you.
Maybe the Mets need to be the reverse Browns and try to go after like all analytic department guys from other sports.
I mean, right now, nobody else wants the job, so you might as well hire somebody that's not a big name and let him come in and let him do the job the way he expects it to be run. I definitely can run this team. Maybe you should look at other people besides executives. Look at an analytic guy. Look at somebody that actually knows the game and understands where the game is going. And then bring in the person that fits what you're looking for. If you put the right people around one guy, you don't need a top executive to win. Theo Epstein wasn't a top executive when he became the Boston Red Sox GM. Learned the game, eventually got a job from Boston, and he was a big transition to the Boston Red Sox and changed the organization. I'm not saying hire somebody off the street, but you start looking past the executives for organizations. Look at AAA, AA. Find somebody that you think would fit the culture for the New York Mets. As far as the Yankees are concerned, we've been hearing trade rumors all week. Luke Voigt and Gleyber Torres going to the Athletics for Olson. I think that would be a terrible move. And now Olson's a good player, Gold Glover, good offensive player, not great. Gleyber Torres, when he moved to second base, he was a 300 hitter. You do not move away from a guy that's 24 years old. As far as Voigt, I would trade Voigt. Voigt is still one of the best power hitter first basemen in the league. He came back last year in the second half, played very, very well before he got hurt. I think there'll be a lot of teams interested in Luke Voigt. A lot of teams are looking for a first baseman on the cheap. I would arbitrate him, give Voigt $7 million for arbitration, and move him and get some good young prospects in, or make a trade. Maybe Voigt and a prospect for Olson.
Olson is also one of those guys that, while he is a good power hitter and a nice defensive player, he has had iffy years with batting average too.
I would move him to third base.
I don't know about that. That's a tougher transition going that way. It's easier to go from third to first. In terms of his raw overall skill set, the strikeouts are still very high and the batting average is still pretty low. So the Yankees, I don't think, really need that type of player. They need more of the high batting average type guy, contact hitter, to go along with DJ LeMahieu, because the Yankees already have a lot of heavy strikeout guys with Stanton, with Judge, and with Gallo.
It's going to be very interesting. I think Brian Cashman has his work cut out for him. I think a lot of Yankee fans are attacking him on why he re-signed Aaron Boone. I am not surprised why the Yankees brought back Aaron Boone. I know a lot of Yankee fans aren't happy about it, and I fought with Tyler for the last couple of weeks about it. There's nobody out there that is available that the Yankees could bring in that's a better option than Aaron Boone. Now, if Aaron Boone doesn't win a World Series or the Yankees don't go to an ALCS this year, I think Aaron Boone is gone. But they're going to extend him. They're going to give him a 3-year deal. There's a reason why they're going to give him a 3-year deal, because no coach is going to go into the season with a 1-year deal. It doesn't happen in any sport. They usually extend them 2 to 3 years, and they extend them because if they do win, you have them on the cheap. You have them for 2 years. You don't have to overpay them like a lot of these managers and these coaches get because of the championships that they win.
You've been arguing with Tyler about Aaron Boone for 3 years.
Aaron Boone is a winning coach, winning seasons all 4 years that he's been with the Yankees, 2 100-win seasons, back-to-back years. He's the second Yankee coach to do back-to-back 100-win seasons. Not even Joe Girardi has done that. That's coming from all these Girardi fans out there, which, by the way, has not won anything with Philadelphia and hasn't brought Philadelphia to the playoffs not one time. I have no idea why everybody loves Joe Girardi like he's some special thing, God's gift to the world.
In his defense, though, Philadelphia might have the most unmanageable bullpen ever. Gabe Kapler looked really bad there managing that team, which we thought was talented. He goes to the Giants, a team that was supposed to be rebuilding, wins 107 games. Joe Girardi inherits that same team, which we know he was a good manager with the Yankees, and they still can't get anywhere pitching-wise except for Zach Wheeler.
Before we go to break, I want to get into some hockey conversation. A lot of people don't like Gerard Gallant. They wanted Mark Messier. I was one of them. I watched the Rangers a lot. I thought Gerard Gallant is a great defensive-minded coach. I think he fits, makes the younger players play his style of hockey, just like Barry Trotz. He's not as good as Barry Trotz, but he's a good coach. He's been successful all over the league for many, many years. I met Gerard Gallant at the draft in Dallas. I met him. Very, very nice nice guy. Ashley Sarge knows him very, very well. Introduced me.
Surprising.
But the Rangers, I think, made the right choice. Look at what the Rangers are doing right now. They're playing team defense. Are they a good defensive team? They're not. But because of the team defense that he preaches and he coaches, they're playing good team defense. And yeah, Panarin's not playing well. Zibanejad's playing but you're starting to see some of their young players start to develop. Lafreniere, Kaapo Kakko needs to figure that out. And Troupa's actually playing better, who's making $9 million, one of the highest paid defensemen in the NHL. So getting enough out of him is a good sign for the New York Rangers. Shesterkin is playing fantastic. He's been a fantastic goaltender for the Rangers this year. And I'll tell you this right now, as long as he continues playing like that, the Rangers will continue winning. As far as the Islanders are concerned, the Islanders haven't had any home games. So it's definitely affected them this year. You start the season, the first 10 games playing away. That's no fun. Not playing in front of your fans. It's a huge difference. Next month, they're going to be playing all home games. So the advantage goes to the Islanders because the Islanders are going to have the opportunity to play in front of their fans on their ice. Home ice advantage is a huge advantage. Right now, the Islanders are playing close to 500 hockey. They have 12 points. They got shut out by the New Jersey Devils the other day. They didn't play well. Do I think the Islanders are this bad? No. They're only out of first place by like 6 points.
Yeah, you're splitting hairs between those wild card teams right now. And even the Metro in general, there's a lot of them too. So the Islanders doing what they do right now, I think is very impressive. And they'll make up for it later. They're going to get a bunch of home games later in the season.
They're going to get a lot of home games because they haven't played a home game.
Exactly.
So if you look at the Islanders, in the first 11 games, they haven't played one home game, and they're 5-4-2. So when they start to play their home games, you're going to see it. Now, right now, Carolina has 20 points. The Islanders are 8 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes only played 11 games, and the Rangers have played 13. When the Islanders start playing and start their home games, trust me, the Islanders will start winning. They've lost 2 games in a row. Do I think the Islanders are this bad? They're not. And Islander fans need to stop. A lot of pressure on this goaltender, this young kid, and this team right now because they're still trying to figure things out. So I'm just letting all the Islander fans out here in Long Island understand. This is one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. This team will be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference by year's end. I guarantee you, there's 82 games in a season. There's a lot of hockey left. And there's no way this Islander team is this bad. Pittsburgh has 14 points. Philadelphia has 14 points. Columbus has 14 points. The Devils have 16 points. The Rangers have 17 points. The Islanders aren't this bad. When they get their home games, and next month, I think they have 12 home games.
As they should.
They're going to have the advantage.
And from a travel lag standpoint, at least get it done early in the season. Especially if this stretch goes right near the end of the playoffs or something like that. That would have been a lot worse for the Islanders to have to overcome. Get it over with now. That's not bad at all when it comes to travel. And again, they're not playing terribly amidst all that. They're down. We expected them to be down traveling all like this, but getting it done now is a much better sign. They're still showing some good things, especially with their young players, too. They've been very impressive with depth, which is something that the Islanders needed to have that offensive depth going forward, especially with Wahlstrom. He's played phenomenally.
Absolutely, and just wait. I believe the Islanders will be better than what people expect them to be.